Hello viewers, you are welcome to Let's Talk About. Let's Talk About is a social program we hold every Wednesday online by Trinity United Church, Legon, Accra, Ghana. It's a program where we talk about real issues, social issues that bother us as Christians. And you are warmly welcome to this week's edition. This week, or today, we are discussing the topic, are you too young or too old to have a will? Joining us today, we have some members of the Trinity United Church, Legon, who are also members of the Mid-Adults Fellowship and who are lawyers by profession. To my immediate left, we have our brother, Stephen Doche Esquire, I must add. He's a legal practitioner at the Amicus Legal Consult in Tema. You're welcome, Pastor Steve. Okay. And then we also have our brother, Connor Bonny Esquire, who is also a legal practitioner, and he works with the Lex Emporium at Agbogba in Accra. And I am your host, Joyce Chumesiedu. Let me remind viewers we are streaming live on our social media platforms at Trinity United Church Legon on both YouTube and Facebook. When you type Trinity United Church Legon, both YouTube and Facebook, you are sure to get this program. You can send in your comments and questions on the comments section on our social media platforms, or you can even WhatsApp us on 050-157-9996. I repeat, 050-157-9996. You are welcome. All right. So let's start. Okay. Esquires. Is there anything like that? Steve,
yes.
We are talking about wills today. What is a will?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, a will is, as the name suggests, is a legal document in which the person who makes the will specifies the way in which his self or herself acquired property is distributed when he or she dies.
Okay. Okay. Would you want to add?
Yes, I will, let me expand the circle a bit. You can also distribute properties that you inherit, so it's not necessarily just your self-acquired.
Okay.
So if you inherit property from your parents, it's yours. You can distribute that too. So it also means that you can make a will to cover properties that you would inherit.
Okay.
Yes.
Properties that you would inherit.
Yes.
Okay. Not properties that you have already inherited.
No. Properties in anticipation.
Oh, yes.
You can.
So properties that you are very sure you are going to inherit.
Right.
You can make a will to cover them. Okay. So we are quick to add that you cannot make a will to cover properties that you are a custodian of.
Right.
For instance, if you are a custodian of stool property or family property, you cannot make a will to cover these properties.
Right. Okay. Because they are not yours.
Because they are
so
not yours. So
essentially, you are willing property that belongs to you.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So who makes a will? Bakona, who makes a will?
Oh, in Ghana, a person 18 and above can make a will. Then the law also requires that you must be of sound mind. Sound mind. That is quite loaded. You must, at the time you are making the will, you should not be suffering from mental illness, for instance. Or even if the person is a mental patient, the person at the time of making the will should be in what the psychiatrists call the lucid interval. So anybody fitting that category can make a will.
Okay, so you are saying that there are just the two conditions. You must be above 18 and then you must be of sound mind.
Yes.
Okay, so it means that if I am 17, I'm too young to make a will.
Legally, you are too young.
Even if I have property.
You are too young.
You are too young,
yes.
okay.
To
And
make a will.
is there an upper ceiling?
No.
No, there's no upper ceiling.
But the danger of leaving it's too late to do a will is that when the bodies when other things start coming in, like you start forgetting where you are, who you are, the people around you, and things like that. That is certainly not the time to be doing a will, because then it could be challenged one day, or you could make mistakes yourself.
Right. So
it's better not to leave it till you are terribly old to do a will. You do the will when you are young. There's always an opportunity to change it as you go forward.
So we'll talk about that into more details. Okay, so what do I need? What do I have to have before I can make a will? So I don't have a house, I don't have land, I don't have a car, but I have a child. Okay, and so what can be in the will for perhaps that child?
Yes, thank you. You see, there are lots of misconceptions about making wills. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to have a house, or if you like, many houses, or many cars, or an uncountable number of stuff or of things before you can make a will. But that is not true. For instance, let's use yours as an example. You said you have a daughter. You don't have a house. You don't have a car. But I know you work with Ghana Commercial Bank, for instance. So you have a bank account. You should be able to make a will giving that bank account either to your daughter or to anybody you so choose. And in the will, you can also specify. Let's say your daughter is young at the time you were making the will. Let's say she was only 2 years. Well, touch wood, you're not saying you're dying yet, but you are providing in the will that in the unlikely event that you die earlier than you can see her to maturity, you give custody to somebody to take care of your daughter whilst you are away, and that can be put in a will.
Oh, okay. Yes. So who should look after an underaged child can be specified?
Yes, can be the subject.
So it means that you must have discussed it with the person, and the person accepts that, okay, if you happen not to be there, and that means that you are expecting the person to outlive you. But anyway, who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So
well, but just before you go, that is why there is the opportunity to make changes to the will.
Okay.
If that person, if you predecease that person, then it means, it calls for a change in your will.
Okay. All right. So I want to write a will. How do I get to write a will? Why is it even important for me to write a will?
Well, let me talk about the importance. It is important to write a will because you want to avoid chaos when you are not there. You see, a will is what we call in law a testament, but let's say it's a document that regulates what happens when you are dead and gone. So that at the end of the day, nobody elects to know better than you when you are not there, and to be able to detect what should happen to your property and how your property should be used or distributed. Right. So you do all of that, and it helps you to sanitize your absence, or you sanitize your estate in your absence.
Okay, all right.
Let me just add that in a situation where people even do wills, often there are confusion. So you can imagine if there's no will at all, it means it comes magnified.
Right.
So it is always better to
To write
Yes,
a will.
to write a will.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to write a will. I am above 18, so I qualify. And at the moment, I think that I'm of sound mind. So I qualify to write a will. Now, what do I do? Okay, how do I even start the whole process? What do I do, Connor?
It's the first thing to do is to identify a lawyer who can help you out. You approach the lawyer. First, you discuss fees. That's very important to us. You discuss fees and agree on that. Then,
Is it expensive?
oh no, not
Does it depend on the number of property I have?
no. The Ghana Bar Association actually has a recommended set of fees for virtually all things that lawyers are supposed to do. So once the person is in that category, the person hasn't overcharged you. But often this become a matter of a discussion between the lawyer and the client. Yes.
Right.
So then you go to the lawyer and then you tell the lawyer you want to do a will. And the lawyer will listen to you, take your instructions. I have a house here, I have a proper land here, this is my car. Then who do you want to give the house to? Who do you want to give the land to? Who do you want to give the car to? The person will take you through all that. Then go back to chambers and then try and represent it in the form that it has to be done for you. Then once that is done, it is then filed in the court. And we always do 3 copies.
Okay.
3 copies of a will. 1 is kept in the court. 2 are returned to the person filing it. So the testator can decide where those should
Who is
be.
the testator? You've introduced that
I
term.
beg you. Okay, so the person who does a will, if it's a man,
Okay.
it's a testator. If it's a woman, it's a testatrix.
Right.
So you can decide where they should be. Whether one should be with your lawyer or you want to keep the 2. Whether you want to keep one in a safety deposit box somewhere, maybe your church, wherever you think they will be safe, except a place where it can be found and read by an unauthorized person whilst you are alive. Either the person ends up dispatching you quickly, or you create a confusion whilst you are there watching.
Yeah, so let's talk about that part. The part where somebody, apart from the people who are supposed to have access, by the way, who is supposed to have access to the will?
When you say
Who do you leave the will when you are not there?
oh, okay.
Who should have access to the will?
First of all,
Usually it's sealed, right?
it is sealed.
So who do I tell that I have a will? It is placed here. Who can go for it and let my family know that I have left a will and these are the contents?
It has to be someone you trust.
Okay.
Yes. In terms of notifying the family members that there's a will.
So my husband?
Yes, of course. If you made the will, your husband should be the first person to know. Yes. Then the people you appoint to distribute your assets in the will, we call them executors.
Right.
These people are very crucial. You must give them prior knowledge because executors are not paid.
Okay.
Yes, their expenses are taken care of by the estate, but they are not on salary. So you must find out whether the person would have the time and the patience to do the job for you.
What is the person supposed to do? Maybe let's...
Very well.
Yeah.
What's the executor supposed to do?
Well, the executor is he's the manager of your estate. He's the one who is to carry out all the instructions that you have written in your will.
Right.
So he goes systematically. First, he makes sure that the will is read, the will is admitted to probate, and then he gathers all the property together. He tries to do a tracing of all the property that you have mentioned, and gathers everything together, and then tries to identify the people you have mentioned in the will, and ensure that every process that he needs to go through legally to ensure that everybody has what has been specifically mentioned in the will, he does that.
So does it mean that when you write the will, and for instance you have land, does it mean that you should attach the documents, the land documents, to the will?
Good question. No, you shouldn't. The will does not admit of such documents.
Right.
If you want to attach any document to the will, that document must be mentioned in the will.
I see.
You just can't attach any documents to the will.
Mentioning it is enough.
Yes,
Mentioning
it is enough. That's all.
I'm asking this question because I'm just thinking of the executor, and when they are administering the will, and you have mentioned the land. I have a land at Legon. Where would the documents be? It means the executor must have access to the document to be able to hand it over to the person whom the land has been
Given to,
is it
bequeathed
given
to,
to,
yes.
bequeathed to?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
so the thing about executors is that you don't choose anybody, just as my senior said in the beginning. The executors are your confidants, kind of. So these are people you have conversations with over time.
Right.
And because you are going to have to negotiate with them for them to be your executors, there's so much more you tell them beyond just appointing them as executors. So there's so much they know that a lot of people in the family would not know. So they would be able, that's why I said they would be the ones to assemble everything that you have put down in the will. So if you say, for instance, that you have these number of houses in East Legon, they probably will know where the documents are.
Okay.
And if the documents are undergoing some perfection, they will know what the status of the documents are. So they definitely will know everything, if you ask me.
All right. So we are about going on a break, but before then, I would want to talk about one of our sponsors, and that is Cooland Supermarket. Cooland Supermarket is at Agbogba in Accra, and it's a big supermarket. It has all you need. And so if you have to go for shopping, I mean, Cooland Supermarket is the place to go. It has everything, and it's located at the George Plaza at Agbogba, and it's also close to the Top Herbal Clinic. It is a happy shopping for you. But before we go on a break, Connor, let's talk. So I want to write a will. What do I do?
Yes, I think we started that discussion a bit earlier, yes. I always advise people who are contemplating doing a will to always have a lawyer do it.
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, you can do your own will. You can write your own will. But it is quite dangerous.
Right.
Because even trained legal practitioners sometimes get it wrong. So it is better to go to a lawyer who would interview you properly and do the writing. Some of the things we do is that we try to be definite. If you have let's say 5 children, 3 of them are daughters, and some maybe 2 or 3 of them are Nanama or Nana something, and you just give a house to Nanama.
To Nana.
Oh, okay, well, very good, to Nana. There are 3 of them. Who is getting the house?
Who is the Nana?
That will be a major conflict where you won't be there to clarify. So a lawyer will have the presence of mind to ask you these questions to be sure that the person who is having the property can be identified.
Right.
So that you don't have this confusion behind you.
Okay.
So seeing a lawyer, yes, is very key, so that it is done, and when you are asleep, you sleep and sleep well.
Okay. Right. What is in a will? Apart from naming, what are the features of a will that, of course, a lawyer would help you do it, but you should also be able to know that the lawyer has done a good thing for me? What am I supposed to look out for that would make me have that sound sleep that you are talking about?
Yes, a will is written in English language.
Okay.
Yes, it has legal terminologies and things like that, but it should be such that if you are a person not trained in the law, if you take it and read, it should make sense to you.
Okay.
As in the particular person who is to inherit a particular property is mentioned, the name is clearly spelled out, and you are satisfied that is the person.
Should it have those wherein, therein, by, for, and terminologies that lawyers will put in legal documents? Wherefore, therein.
A few, but not too much.
Not too much.
Yes, because when in fact, even drafting style has moved on in the last few years from the archaic language, the archaic English language. We still use them sometimes to bamboozle people a bit, but if it's littered in your documents and the people read it and they can't understand it, you haven't served your client well.
That's right. No. Okay. But, okay, so it's between me and my lawyer. Just to be on the safer side, should I have people testifying that truly it is my will? Steve?
Yes. At the stage of drafting it, it's between you and your lawyer.
Okay.
But at the point where the lawyer says,
will the executors be there?
No, the executors will not be there.
Okay.
Executors, you would already have discussed it with them.
Okay.
So their name and description and contact, something that would make it certain that we're talking about this person and not that person, is there already in the will. Once you get to the point where the will is done, then you are going to have to sign it. You will not sign it in front of the lawyer. You would have to bring two witnesses who must be there at the same time to witness you sign the will.
The lawyer would also be there.
Well, the lawyer, yes, because he's the one who at that point is administering it. Those two people will be there at the same time. They would attest to the fact that, yes, on this day, you signed this document, and they would put the attestation by way of witnessing that, yes, you did it, and you did it in their presence. You cannot have one person do it and the other person stand downstairs.
Right.
For instance, where the car park is. Even if you have the two of them on the premises, but they are not both in the same room at the time you are signing, that makes it voidable.
Right.
So they all have to be there present at the same time to see you do it.
Let me add something to what you just said in terms of the people being present at the same time. Let me give just an example. There's a famous case where a patient on admission in the hospital was doing a will. So he had his nurse.
Is that allowed?
Oh, yes.
If the patient, okay.
Yes.
Can it not be contested that the patient knew that he or she was going to die and perhaps a family member came in to coerce a person to do a will before
you do wills in anticipation of death. So you're actually observing the condition. Yes.
Yeah.
So his nurse and then someone who was another person was to witness. So at the time the first person was witnessing, the patient started coughing.
Ooh.
Or started, and naturally the nurse will have to leave to go and get some water.
That's right.
So the nurse left and came back and did hers later. The will was challenged successfully. So these are some of the little things that we know, which we keep at our fingertips. That is why we always insist that you must see a lawyer, so that these little things will be observed to the letter.
Yes.
The law is a granular profession.
Yes.
So the slightest mistake can cause a lot of damage somewhere.
Yes. Okay. So the witness,
just to add, if you would permit me, even where you put your signature is of consequence to the validity of the law, of the will. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it should be at a specified,
and then you cannot write anything beyond the signature by way of alteration.
Okay. Per my training, I've been trained not to sign anything I haven't read. I must make sure that what I am signing to, I know what it is. Are the witnesses required to know the content of the will?
Unfortunately, that is where your training would stop. In the case of a will, the witnesses are not supposed to know what is in the will.
So what are they testifying?
They are testifying to you signing a will, your will.
To help, they are testifying to having seen you sign a
it.
document,
Yes.
which you claimed is your will. So when the witnesses come, they are coming to identify their signature
Yes.
on the
On
document.
the same document.
Okay.
So the witness will come and say, this is my name, this is my signature. I signed this document on the same day that the testator or testatrix signed
the
it.
signature there.
And then this is my name, this is my signature.
Okay.
Yes.
So it means the witnesses must be there when you sign the document.
Absolutely.
And then they would also append their signatures.
Absolutely.
Okay. But they don't need to know what is in the will.
If they do, you are in trouble.
Yes.
You could be in trouble. Not that you could be in
Why?
trouble. Oh, well, your will could be trending whilst you are still alive.
Yes.
Right.
Your will could be
And
trending.
what's the danger in your will trending whilst you're still alive?
Well, you can have a situation where the witness has some affiliation with your family.
Right.
And for some reason knows all of your children. So sees one of your children somewhere and says, yes, you. I'm not surprised. That's why your father gave that building to the younger one. You see the problem that has started already.
Yeah.
Or the other, or this man has 2 wives. Well, we are in a Christian setting, we shouldn't be talking about 2 wives. But the reality is that there are people with 2 wives. And especially, they are the ones who even have wills. So this man has 2 wives. This witness knows one of them. He goes back and says, today we sign a will.
Hey.
Your husband's will.
Hey.
That man is very wicked. He didn't give you anything. You see where you'll be going. So that is why they mustn't know the content.
Okay. I could also imagine that if you know that a lot has been willed to you, you can decide to kill your father or your mother.
the point.
Why don't you go so that I start enjoying
so that
To find a
I can
clever
have
way.
it.
Yes.
Especially for those who perhaps may have become invalid and they are in bed and they are not dying, and you know that as soon as this person closes his or her eyes, I have these property. So then the temptation will be perhaps to do kofi ekowu.
That's
So
the temptation.
the
But let's quickly add something to that temptation. It's that the law anticipates such a situation.
Okay.
Because however watertight you want to keep a will, chances are that it may leak. And so if somebody does what you just spoke about, which is that send you faster to your grave, the law says that no man is allowed to profit from his own wrongdoing. So if it is proven in court that you sent the man away just so you could inherit that car that he had put in his will for you, you will not get it.
So who will that go to?
No, I like counsel's caveat. If it is proved.
If it is proved.
So if it is not proved.
If it is not proved, that's
You have
fine.
it.
But if it is proved that you have a hand in the man's death, then that part of the estate that was meant for you would fall into the residue, they call it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me let my guests catch their breath and let's just go on a short break so that my guests can catch their breath. Viewers, will be right back pretty soon.
Agro processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month.
Tertiary education has become imperative in this new time and age. The rapid need for tertiary education has brought about numerous tertiary schools. The one thing remains true and sure, and is the fact that everyone in pursuit for tertiary education is looking for thunders and maximum output. We have a serene atmosphere and qualified lecturers, modern state-of-the-art facilities to enhance learning. NASFA University is located at East Legon, behind Mensvik Hotel. We are affiliated to the University of Ghana and the University for Development Studies. We offer BSc Business Administration with specialization in accounting, finance, human resource management, and marketing. BSc Nursing, BSc Media and Communication, BSc Economics, BSc Computer Science, and BSc Information Technology. Our MBA programs are MBA Accounting, MBA Finance, MBA Human Resource Management, and MBA Marketing. NASFA University, the Royal University of Africa.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, action.
Welcome back, viewers. Don't forget to send your comments and questions on both our Facebook and YouTube channels, Trinity United Church Legon. You can also send your comments or questions to our WhatsApp number 050 157 9996. 050 157 9996. We are on the topic, am I too young or too old to have a will? So we are talking about wills today. And if you joined us late, we have on the panel our brother Steve Doche Esquire and our brother Corner Bonnie Esquire, both legal practitioners and members of Trinity United Church and members of the Mid-Adults Fellowship. So we continue. We are having a very interesting discussion, and I hope, listeners, you are taking down notes because this is very educative. Now, so we talked about witnesses and executors. I want us to make the distinction very clear. You said executors are the people you appoint, two of them. You appoint to carry out your instructions to detail. And the witnesses are those who would sign and attest to the fact that they saw you signing a document which you purport to be your will. Am I right?
You are perfectly correct.
I'm a good student.
Yes.
A+.
I'm proud of myself. Okay. So the executors and the witnesses, can they be beneficiaries in the will?
Excuse me.
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Unfortunately, they cannot be.
Oh, okay.
They are not allowed to be beneficiaries of the will.
Why?
Because they occupy, if I can use that word, they occupy, especially the executors, occupy what you people in accounting call a fiduciary position.
Okay.
That's a position of trust that has been given to them. And human nature, and as gullible as it is, you don't want to have them come near any of the benefits.
Okay.
Because there's a danger of they taking more than has been given them, because
Taking
anyhow
advantage
they
of
are
the
the ones who are
situation.
holding the document.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. So, but can I change my will? Okay, so I heard a story of an old man. When he was young and active, his kids were also loving, and also he had written a will, apportioned his property. Now, fast forward, he grows old. He has old age diseases and he becomes bedridden. He still is of sound mind though, and his children neglect him. And he says that, look, it is the next door son who is paying attention to him in his old age, and he wants to change the will. Can he? Connor?
Yes. You see, the essence of a will, as the name implies, what you want to do with the properties you have.
It is for you.
It's yours.
Right.
You can allocate it to on any basis, and nobody can question you or the motive for why you did it in a particular way. So yes, this old man can change his will at any time and substitute a perfect stranger in terms of relationship, and it to be valid. The only thing is that at the time of changing the will, the person is of sound mind, and the
it's
process.
still above it.
Yes.
Chances are.
Yes.
Chances are that he will be.
So that those are the criteria. Once that is done, you can change your will at any time.
Can you cancel it altogether?
Yes, you can, but it's dangerous.
I realize the danger.
The danger is that you did the will to prevent a certain situation from happening,
Okay.
to prevent confusion when you are no more there. So if you mentioned human nature earlier on, then if you cancel your will totally, you withdraw it and you don't replace it, then it means that somebody else will come to sit and decide how your property should be allocated.
Okay.
Who should take what, which parts, and things like that. So it is always better to do a new will, and then you revoke and withdraw.
Withdraw the old
My
one.
style is that I do the new one, go and file it, then at that same time I take the old one,
Okay.
and then I go and shred it.
Right. So you don't even leave copies around for confusion to arise.
It's dangerous.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yes, and
Massive.
let me just add a little to what my senior has said. For as many times as you want to change your will or to amend something in your will, please, you need to remember that the execution of that will must be in the same form as the first one you did, i.e., it must respect the dictates of the law. You don't say that because I've done one will and I'm going to change this, oh, I have the liberty to do it anyhow this time. That will would become contestable. It always has to conform.
Okay. All right. So we are going to talk about that contest. Yeah. But viewers, let's take a short break, a very short break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about contesting a will.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, We talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians. With the growing
chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month.
Welcome back, viewers. But Steve,
Yes.
Before we went on break, we wanted to talk about contesting of a will. What will make a will contestable?
Thank you very much. Before I answer this question, I think I need to go back a little and talk about the executors and the witnesses.
Okay.
Which one of them can be a beneficiary in your will?
Okay.
We said in the beginning that the executors are not paid for the job they do. So in making the will, the testator can make a provision for them in the will.
Okay.
Okay,
Pay
can
them
make, yes,
this
can pay
amount
them
of
or say
money.
take this property for all that you're going to do. So in that case, they tend to assume the role of a beneficiary one way or the other. So it's not very strict to say that they will also not benefit. Once a provision is made for them in the will, they also become beneficiaries.
Okay.
So that is only for the executors. As for the witnesses,
that is in appreciation of all that,
yes,
all the trouble they are going to go
yes.
through.
But in the case of the witnesses, it's a no.
It's a no.
Yes.
Okay.
Now back to your question. The question about contesting a will is difficult to be able to enumerate all that can make a will contestable, because some people contest the will on very frivolous, for very frivolous reasons.
Right.
But the legal basis on which you can contest a will are one, that it was not done in the right form. So it's voidable.
Okay.
The person who is purporting to have written the will was not 18 by the time he said to have written the will. So dates are very important in this. Or was not of sound mind. Or even if he was of sound mind throughout his life, there were points at which he was not lucid. And if it is traceable to that point, then that makes it contestable. There can be other reasons. I mean, I cannot think about all of the reasons for which a will is contestable, but these are the ones that come to mind immediately.
Okay. Connor, can you think of any?
Well, I think it's, in fact, just about
Anything.
People can challenge your will for whatever reason. The question is always whether they would be successful. There's this situation, even children of the household. You know, these are children, or these are people who are not your biological children. but they live with you.
You've been looking after
living
them
with you since they were
since.
babies. They've become part of the family. They depend on you. They don't, even if they have living parents, they are your children. I mean, so to speak. If you make your will and you leave such dependence out, they could create problem for you.
I see.
Yes. We call them children of the household.
Yes.
They could create problem for you. So for those who you put in school and you pay their school fees, you are looking after them, it is always good to make a provision at least till they finish school or they learn a trade or something.
Right.
Otherwise,
The will
sleep
could be
well.
contested.
And Joyce, the reverse of that situation is also true. You can have a will that gives something of some substance to somebody who is just a child of the house, let's say, who is not a biological child of the person who is making the will. So the biological children are like, no, how can daddy have given me the VW and give the Benz to the other one who is not a biological child? It takes something else. This person, this is not a correct will. This is not our daddy's will. Exactly. So they go and contest it.
Okay, all right. Can I update my will? And what will make me update my will?
You can. If at the time you made your first will, you probably, maybe you didn't have anything. But you made provision for, using the earlier example, you made provision for your daughter. Now you have a house, or you have houses, you have cars. You need to specify how these, and perhaps more children, how these properties should be distributed. If you don't, then it means the parts of your properties that are not mentioned in your will fall into what is called intestacy. It's like you didn't make a will in respect of those
properties.
So people, the family members can go and apply for letters of administration to administer those assets that are not mentioned in the will. Yes. So what we usually do when we are drafting wills is to put in what is called a residual clause. So that you say all other assets that I will die possessed of should be either given to my children, my wife, or so and so. So that
to cover up for any property that perhaps was not named.
We usually do that because then it's not everyone who goes to update their will before they are called by their maker.
Okay, all right. There's a question by Eliklim Jikunu. She's asking, at which point or duration after someone dies is the will read? Who initiates the process of reading the will? I remember that we would watch dramas and you see the lawyer come with his briefcase. All the family members are assembled and the lawyer comes with a file under his armpit with his briefcase. Is it as soon as the lawyer hears that the person is dead and the family had gathered, is that the time to come and read the will, or how does it go?
If I may start first. There's no legal provision in respect of that. You know, I would say often those things are determined more by our cultural norms.
Okay.
If someone passes on and then a month later I hear that they are doing their will and they start say, hey, but these people they won't even bury the person. They won't even allow the man or the woman to. So it's all about property. So you see that people don't often do that.
Okay.
So they will lay the person to rest. They will do this. Some time will pass. Then they initiate the process, and it starts with a letter to the registrar of the High Court.
Who writes that letter?
If you can contact a lawyer to do it for you, or you can do it yourself.
As in who?
As in,
I am dead. I who
oh,
wrote
okay.
the
When
will
I say
am
you,
dead.
the family,
Okay.
either the surviving spouse
Any
or
member of the
the members of the family, children, yes.
Who know there's a will?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually, what we often do is that we conduct a search. Even though we deposit the will, we conduct a search for the registrar to answer that yes, a will in the name of so and so person has been deposited in this court, and wills are deposited in the high courts, all the high courts in the regions. They have a special a desk where they receive wills. Yes. In the court complex in Accra, there's a whole probate court.
I see.
In fact, there are several courts. So there's a registry. So the registry takes care of those. So you write to the registrar. If they establish that the will is there, usually they will have to find it because they receive thousands of them. So they will have to locate it. Then they give you a date and specify a certain number of people who can be present for the reading of the will. They try to avoid the situation where they will have too many people because sometimes blows start from the place. And it's also not the case that the will is read in open court in front of strangers.
Okay.
It's not. Sometimes when we hear reading of a will in court, it's as if
there are other people seated.
No. It's just the people that the registrar would have specified, and it's even often done in the registrar's office.
Okay, not in the open court.
Not in the open.
Okay. I see. That's interesting. Right. Okay. So can a will be read after, say, 10 years after the person died? Is it, or is there a time frame that the will must be read, or it becomes null and void?
No, it doesn't become. It depends on the vigilance of the family. Yes.
Whether they find it,
or they even know about it, which is why he said, my senior said in the beginning, that it's good for someone to know that a will exists.
Okay.
Another good reason is that I've had clients who left burial instructions in their will.
I was going to ask that I
that,
know that there are people who leave specific instructions as to
I
how
should be
their
buried here.
funeral should be carried out, and
so if you leave that kind of instruction in your will, then you must make sure that somebody knows. Otherwise, they will bury you long ago, 10 years later, and then you say, "Oh, they should bury me with this, my favorite toy."
Too late.
Yeah.
But shouldn't you separate that instruction from the will itself that is actually sharing property? Shouldn't it be a separate document so that could be presented to the family right after your death, before they even start the funeral arrangements? I should think so.
You can. You can actually, there's a situation, there's a whole document also filed like a will, which is called burial instructions.
Okay.
Is there. But things like I should be buried next to my mother, my father, or this person, or those are all some kind of religious rights that you want observed. Those are things that you can leave in your will. But if it's something major, a deceased person, the body of a deceased person belongs to the family.
That's right.
So if you leave an instruction in your will and the family is not aware, chances that they may not do it is very high.
Okay.
Chances that they may not do that instruction. For instance, you don't want to be buried in your hometown. You want to be buried in Accra. And the family's policy is that they always bury their Odishia in their hometown. They will overrule you in any case, you are not even there to
and that's an overrulable thing.
Oh, yes.
Even
yes.
if you took it to the court, got it notarized that these are my last instructions as to the family may decide. Oh, then what's the point?
Well, so that is where the consultation comes in. I have done one for a client before who doesn't want to be buried in her hometown somewhere in the Greater Accra. I don't want to mention the place. He wants to be buried within around Accra.
Okay.
Now, the issue was that they know that the family has incontestable right or claim to the body of the deceased person. So they had to go and meet the family head, the influential people in the family, and negotiate that. Look, this is where I want to be buried. I don't burden my children to come to this place and go through all this. Just let them bury me here. And we didn't end it there. We made them sign a document. So it's become like a contract between the person and the family. That one has a higher chance of success.
Okay.
If you just go and sit in your small corner and you do a will that I'm a Jehovah's Witness, my family shouldn't do an elaborate burial for me. They will do
and
it.
And Ashanti.
They will very well. They will do it if you like come and contest it.
I see. Daniel has sent in a question. There's a question by Daniel Kutati. He says, if a will writer lies in a will, what will be the consequence for beneficiaries of that will? Well, so I would think that maybe the property is not for the person, but the person has willed it.
They get nothing.
It's void ab initio.
They get nothing.
You get
Or
nothing.
if you are, say, perhaps a politician, and you came into contact with a government house, and you bequeath that government house to one of your children, is it permissible?
It's not. And if you remember in the opening comments, we said that it is property that you have acquired either by yourself or you have acquired legally by some other means. So if you are staying in that bungalow by virtue of you being a top-notch politician, it doesn't bequeath to you any proprietary rights to the property. So you don't have a right to bequeath to anybody.
Okay.
You don't have anything, so you can't bequeath anything.
Okay.
Another thing related to the question that Daniel asked is, if you give a property to someone in your will, and by the time you pass on, you dispose of that property, that person gets nothing.
Yes, because the property is not there.
Yeah, it's no more
in the
there.
first place.
So it's just related to it.
All right, interesting. Another question by Kingsley Nete. Mr. Nete wants to know, what if the executors are the children of the testamenter? Can they, the children, be beneficiaries?
Yes. Yes, you know, he made a comment earlier and then he walked it back a bit. Yes. So what it means is that your own children can be executors.
Yes.
Crucially, they cannot be witnesses.
Okay. They can be executors,
Yes.
but they cannot be witnesses.
Yes. But the law specifies the age of an executor, a minimum of 21.
Okay.
You must be at least 21 years to be an executor.
Okay,
Yes.
but you can be a beneficiary.
Yes.
Okay, so it means that the children of the testamenter can
The
be
testator.
Yeah, the
testator.
Yes.
Okay, can be.
You see, but Auntie Joyce or Sister Joyce, there are
We
some
call her
things.
Ma Joyce.
There are things we call pitfalls in law.
Okay.
These are things you should do well to navigate yourself away from.
Okay.
If your children are going to be made beneficiaries, my advice is that don't make them executors.
Okay.
Because of what we spoke about in the beginning, of the gullibility of humans. If you remember the story of King Solomon and the two harlots, I think, the two women who, that's how human beings are. And if you remember a very old song by Nana Ampedu, which says Somuju Akrantie or whatever it is, that's how human beings are. The grass is always, your neighbor's grass is always greener than yours. So these are two children you have made executors. You have given the old Benz to this one, and you have given the new Toyota to this one. He says, no, I like all things. Why did daddy give me the new one? So you want to avoid all those pitfalls. My advice would be, even though that is permissible, just navigate around away from that and put independent executors in charge so that you avoid every problem.
Just a moment, in reaction to what my learned friend just said, I have done a case before where a person passed on in Kumasi. The person passed on in the 70s. As at 2011 or thereabouts, when it came to our attention, the executor had still not done the vesting assent. The vesting assent is the document that transfers the property bequeathed to the beneficiary to the beneficiary.
Okay.
Until the vesting assent is done, the executor owns the property.
Say it again.
Listen. You see, the executor step in your shoes.
Yes.
As a testator, they step in your shoes.
Okay.
So whatever powers you have over the property, they are exercising it.
Yes.
Okay.
So if they don't do the vesting assent and transfer the property to the beneficiary, they can keep it for
They
themselves.
are holding it.
Hold on. I think this is very important.
They can be using it.
Let's get it straight. So I have willed a house to my child.
Yes.
I have named you
Yes.
as my executor.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm no more. That house was registered in my name.
Yes.
Okay, but I have given it to my child. Are you saying that if you, the executor, you don't change, you go to the court, go through lands and all that to change the document into the name of my child, that house doesn't belong to my child?
Not yet.
Let me correct something slightly. Yes. It's not that the executor needs to go through that. The executor needs to do the vesting assent, then the beneficiary can do the rest.
Oh, okay.
You understand?
Okay. So that vesting assent is something you do in court?
It's a document. It's one of the things we draft. So that is what transfers the legal title in the property to the beneficiary.
Okay.
So what in reference to that Kumasi experience, the person died in the 70s. This executor didn't do the vesting assent. So he was renting and it's a prime property. He was renting it and keeping the proceeds.
Didn't the beneficiary know?
They knew whatever why they didn't come forward, nobody knows. But they had to come forward now because our client, a big corporate client, wanted to rent the property and set up an FM station there. Okay. So we asked for the document, and we realized that they brought the will. They said, but it's been willed to these people. So where is the vesting assent? This is, as I said, will in 70s, 2011 or thereabouts, no vesting assent. So we then prepared the vesting assent, which then vested the property in the names of the beneficiaries, and we ensured that our clients paid the money to the beneficiaries for the first time since the will was made. So the danger where you just pick complete strangers or people that you may human beings, yes, and you are no more there. Then your children are still very young. The chances that they could do those things is high.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a caution, yes. So if your children are above 21, well, it's better to put one of them there, the oldest, and then still have another responsible, so to speak, person who is another executor, and then they can they can execute the will as you wanted. Otherwise, a bad person will keep the money and be chopping.
Someone said that as for she won't do a will, but for whatever property she acquires, she puts the name of a child that she wants to inherit that property. She processes the papers in that child's name.
Well,
Is that good? Is it recommendable?
Well, I mean,
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. That looks like a gift.
yes, it is a gift.
That is a gift. But you see, when it comes to gifting property, the age thing kicks in again.
Okay.
So if the child has not reached maturity, the child has no capacity to own property. So it's either, okay, that will take us into another discussion. It's either you create a trust and put the child's name under the trust as the beneficiary and hold the property in trust for the child, or you wait till the child reaches maturity, or you just have a will. It's all up to you. But
Right.
it's not advisable when the child is not of
When
age.
the child is not of age. Nee is asking a question. What happens, if I have two questions, what happens if someone dies without a will? One. And then two, can you will something to someone that has been willed to you? So a property has been willed to you. Can you also will it to someone?
Yes.
Okay, so he's asking two questions.
Let me take.
What
Let me
happens
take the second
if you
one.
die without
So he does that.
So the second one says, can you will
Yeah.
something that has been willed? Can you will it to somebody else?
Yes, yes. If it's been willed to you, it's yours.
It's yours.
So naturally, you can pass it on to another person. Even in the situation where, for instance, I'm the son of who's the richest man around here, Kwame Despite. I know definitely my father will leave me something. So I can even make a will in respect of whatever my father will give me.
So you say whatever
Yes.
my father.
Of course,
leaves
I mean,
me,
this
also
putting
leave.
it just plainly, we have ways
Legal
of putting it.
terms.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can.
And the first one is
The first one is
what happens when
what
you die
happens?
without.
A will.
Well, until 1985, what used to happen was chaos. If you died before 1985 and you didn't have a will, there was chaos.
So that's when we say you died interstate.
That's when you die intestate, which means you didn't leave a will.
right.
But then, thankfully, from 1985, the PNDC came and passed a law, which is now the famous PNDC Law 111.
Okay.
So what that means
What's the name of the law?
is interstate
Succession
law.
PNDC.
Interstate
PNDC
succession law.
PNDC law
PNDC
111.
law.
So it wasn't all about shooting under PNDC. They gave us a good law as well. So this law, I mean, technically what that means is that the state has made a will for you.
Okay.
So the state makes a will for you and ensures that your property is shared or distributed by the dictates of that law.
It means technically, whether you decide to write a will or not, you have a will.
Yes, if you come under
A
PNDC
will
law
either
111,
you have written or the state would
yes. But
get you a
let
will.
me quickly add that there are so many people, or there are some people who are also operating outside of PNDC law 111, because PNDC law 111, even though it kicks in automatically, it is the family itself that must go forward to get it to work for them. So there are people who have lost loved ones whose property they have just either distributed by customary law, which is also not wrong, but you still ought to have gone through the court system.
Right.
So they have just distributed and they are just staying in them, or sold them, or used them.
I think.
And it's
sorry.
legal?
Not necessarily. I won't
Not
say it's legal.
necessarily.
I was just going to add that Law 111 came to cure a mischief.
Yes.
And the mischief it came to cure was to prevent the situation where after a person passes on, usually the men, then the family invade the property and kick out the widows and the children, and then take it over and do it run it as they want. So if you want to prevent that situation, then either you do a will, but if you don't, then you have the situation where there's a mathematical formula. Law 1 will actually prescribe some complex mathematical formula for the distribution of assets. One, the most important thing it does is that household items, and if there's one house, then that house and the household item, you call them chattels, it gives it to the spouse, the surviving spouse, and the children. So you see that it prevents the situation where the family throws out the children and the surviving spouse from that one house that they've known as home all their life, and then they take it over. There's a famous one you may remember. This guy, this famous footballer, Shamukwe. When he passed on, whilst we were all really under the shock, word passed around that his father sent people to the house to go and lock up the place and bring the key. The hula baloo, that the groundswell of uproar that was so they quickly
let's go
quickly. But that is how it used to happen. Classic example, it was happening and we were not hearing anything. But after Law 111, people became that much aware of the situation. So it's no more that easy to take that advantage. But let me add quickly that Law 111 is currently undergoing review. Right. It's been found to be outdated.
Oh, okay.
Because if you read it, it only talks about surviving spouse, surviving spouse, surviving spouse. But in certain situations, there are surviving spouses. So they want to change and include polygamous relationships. Yes. So I think somewhere in June this year, it was read the second time in Parliament. So it's seriously in the works. So I think that the viewers should watch out for it. You may want to see what will happen when the final law is passed.
We should just write wills.
No, that is good for us.
Yeah, it's good for the lawyer.
Yes,
okay, so let me ask a question. I'm a woman. Can I, because when you're talking about will, looks like everybody is talking about the man writing the will, the man writing. We women, do we need to write a will?
I think the simple answer to that question is yes. Everybody who
But why
acquires,
does everybody seem to be talking about when a man dies
Forgive
and doesn't
us.
live?
Forgive us. I mean, in law, when we say he, we mean he and she.
Okay.
But it's steeped in tradition. I mean, there's this account proverb that says that Obato Tua Madam. So it's just steeped in tradition. But with the level of liberation a women are attaining now, I think the women are advised to have their own wills too.
Okay.
In fact, the very fact that there is a name for a woman who does a will, testatrix, means that the women can do a will. So I'll edit it.
I saw a write-up and somebody was saying he's never seen a woman write a will in the name of her husband. I thought it was a wrong statement. Can you write a will in the name of somebody? I thought wills are personalized. It is your will. So I cannot write a will saying this will is for Steve Doche. It is Joyce Chumesiedu's will.
Yes. Yes.
I would want you to clarify that.
I think the straightforward answer is no. But there are exceptions to the no. Exceptions are if the person was blind, for instance. If you have a blind person or an illiterate, then you can write a will, but I will describe that as a will on behalf of that person.
Okay.
And that will, when it is written, there are other legal conditions it must meet. It must be read and explained to the person, for the person to accept that, yes, this is what I asked you to write. Number two, it must be written with my consent and permission. I should be the one to come to you to say, write this will for me, and these are the things I want you to put in. So you don't just get up and write on it.
Yes, but then the crucial thing is that it is still your will.
Yes, then
it is
your
not
will. The
So the
other
person
no,
who
no,
wrote
no,
it
no.
So it is your
Your
will.
will, yes.
So wills are personalized. You don't
Precisely.
write
You
a
don't
will
write
in the
it for-
name of
no,
somebody. Okay. Number 2, another myth. If I write a will, does it mean I'm dying?
Well, that
Because that's the reason why a lot of people don't write. It's like you don't even want to think about it, because when you start writing a will, it means that chances are that the devil may perhaps hear you and take over, and you are about to die.
you want to take it.
Certainly not. If that were the case, then the lawyers who prepared the will, they should even die several times before the testator. But it's certainly not the case. As you said, it's just a myth. I've had clients who prepared their wills and they lived meaningful lives. I prepared some wills when I started practicing 2006. The people are still alive, running around today. And once a while they call me, come and
Update it.
update or change it for me and things like that. So it's at least from my practice, for the little I've done, it's just one great myth which should be dispelled quickly.
Viewers, please, when you write a will, it doesn't mean you are dying. Abner Ebua wants to know, can we have examples of what could enable one win his or her case when contesting a will?
Okay. The examples that come to mind readily are, if the will you are contesting, you can prove that it was obtained by fraud. And what we mean by fraud is that it was done fraudulently. Let's say somebody in a certain corner wrote a will and gave it to your daddy to sign, and it was not your daddy's free will. He held the knife to him, or he threatened your daddy with some information he has about your daddy. If you don't sign this, I'll spill those kinds of things. If you can prove in court, that will by all means will fail. Okay. Now, if the will doesn't conform to the legal form of a will, you can also contest it. And then if on the other hand, as we said in the beginning, the person who is purported to have written the will wrote it at a time that didn't have capacity, was not 18, was not of sound mind, and wrote it, or is purported to have written it, if you take it to court and you are able to prove, then that will must fail. But the little caution there is that because you are the one contesting the validity of that will, you are the one who bears the onus of proof. You are the one who should prove that that will indeed is a fraudulent or avoidable or a void will.
Okay. So you are saying it's a fraudulent will,
Yes.
and so you have to prove.
You have to prove.
Is the only thing I want to emphasize in what he said. You bear the onus.
Yes.
So to answer him, whatever you allege, so you can make any allegation at all. So I will give a generic answer. Any allegation at all. But remember, in court, it is proof. So to win to contest a will and win, you must have proof for what you are alleging.
Okay.
It is the only way you would win.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Ruth Redu, is it only the court that one can deposit a will? So can you deposit in a bank, for instance, your safe custody? Can you deposit it in a safe in somebody else's house? I mean, apart from the court, she wants to know, is it just the court, or apart from the court, you can also deposit your will elsewhere?
You can deposit your copy anywhere.
Okay.
But the copy,
Copy.
that's, in fact, he even called it's called the court's copy.
Okay.
So that is the copy that is
That must
admitted
be,
to
yeah.
probate. So the law says you should deposit it in any high court. So we can't go away from that. But the copy that is given to you, you can choose to put it in a safety deposit box. I also even mentioned the church earlier. If you trust that your church, they can keep it well, nobody will open it and see it. You can put it in the system. Their job is to notify your family when we are no more there, that we have a will written by the testator, so or the testatrix. So it is in our custody. Then they can hand it over to you. You can see at that point if the person is passed on and funerals and things like that. You can see that, you can read the document.
Okay.
People, you can open it and read. But that is not what is going to be used in the court. They will still have to read it formally in court before then.
The copy that was deposited
in the court, yes. Court. Before then they can go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Neti, what happens to the properties when the benefactor dies before the testator, but the will was not amended before the death of the testator?
Okay, very, very interesting. I think he's referring to the beneficiary.
So the beneficiary dies
before
but
the testator.
The person who the will is still alive.
Yeah. Okay, no, and he also dies without amending the will. Yeah, what happens is that if the beneficiary at the time of his death had a will bequeathing his properties to somebody, then whatever has been bequeathed to him by the testator's will would go through his estate.
Okay.
That's one. But if the beneficiary himself died not leaving a will, and perhaps not leaving a son or anybody who can inherit him, then that property,
or a daughter,
that's what I said, anybody who can inherit him, then that property will fall into what they call the residue. Okay. Now, once it goes into the residue, it doesn't mean that you have lost it. When it goes into the residue, then it becomes a property that has to be dealt with as a property coming from somebody who died intestate, without leaving a will.
Okay.
Because it is already in that will that that property is for him.
It's for him.
So so it will become a property that is subject to PNDC law 111.
Right. Okay. Taneti asks again, if someone dies intestate before 1985, can PNDC law 111 apply? If the person died before the law doesn't take retrospective effects, does it?
Law says from the making of that law. I'm not sure it talks about, before. I would be very surprised. Of course, if the person died before and the property is intact, then you want to go and say, okay, the property is still there, nobody has touched it, so let's go to court and get an early
letters of administration.
Exactly. But if the property is already dissipated, and it was dissipated under that chaotic situation that PNDC law 111 came to kill, then I'm afraid it's already gone. And even if they decide to apply 111, there will be no property to distribute.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Amen Peter says, if one is named next of kin when one is acquiring properties, but the person dies without a will, does the next of kin automatically take over the person's properties, even if the person might have died leaving behind either a spouse or children?
Honestly, I don't think that next of kin actually means that you
are inheriting.
No. Often those are for information purposes.
Yeah.
That if they want certain information, this
Call
is the person. Yes.
So
there's an established rule of distribution of properties of deceased persons in this country. It will follow that.
Okay.
The next of kin cannot just take it and maybe if the next of kin happens to be like that executor I knew in Kumasi.
Okay, all right. Amen, Peters. I hope your question was answered. Okay. Viewers, this has been a very interesting discussion. I hate to let our lawyers off the hook. Looks like there's so much that we can talk about, but I hope that this evening has been very educative, and we want to thank our guests, our brother Stephen Doche Esquire and our brother Corner Bonnie Esquire. This has been Let's Talk About. We'd also want to thank our sponsors. They have been phenomenal. Coolant Supermarket at Agboba and Coolant Catering Services, who are always sorting out the technical crew who ensure that Let's Talk About comes off every Wednesday. You can contact Kulan Catering, who can host your events, and they give very top-notch services. And you can contact them on 020-211-0134. Kulan Catering Services, 020-211-0134. This has been Let's Talk About, Trinity United Church social program that is carried on every Wednesday. And today we have been trying to understand what a will is and to answer the question, am I too young or too old to write a will? Your hostess has been Joyce Chimesiedu. Thank you for listening and see you next week, God willing. Thank you.
Imperative in this new time and age, the rapid need for tertiary education has brought about numerous tertiary schools. The one thing remains true and sure, and is the fact that everyone in pursuit for tertiary education is looking for thunders and maximum output. We have a serene atmosphere and qualified lecturers, modern state-of-the-art facilities to enhance learning. NASFA University is located at East Legon, behind Mensvik Hotel. We are affiliated to the University of Ghana and the University for Development Studies. We offer BSc Business Administration with specialization in accounting, finance, human resource management, and marketing. BSc Nursing, BSc Media and Communication, BSc Economics, BSc Computer Science, and BSc Information Technology. Our MBA programs are MBA Accounting, MBA Finance, MBA Human Resource Management, and MBA Marketing. NASFA University, the Royal University of Africa.
This is GKV